If you have multiple changes you want to make, either in your own individual life or at a larger scale, or both, it can feel overwhelming and even lead to analysis paralysis. This video provides a method for figuring out in which order you might prioritize these changes so that you can get started. First of all, I always recommend letting your inner guidance make such decisions for you if you can. However, if you're having trouble hearing your inner guidance right now, or if your inner guidance tells you to use this method, then of course, go ahead and proceed with the rest of this video. As I've mentioned previously for how-to videos like this, you can use this video in a few different ways. One, you can watch the video and take notes, and then apply the ideas yourself afterwards by following your notes. Or two, you can pause the video right now and go get or jot down a list of changes you want to make, and then watch the video as an active workshop, pausing where necessary to think about and apply these changes to your list as you go. Or three, you can watch the video straight through once as a preview to get the gist, and then get your list of changes and watch the video a second time as a workshop, applying the ideas as you go. I'm sure there are other ways you could use this video too. Of course, use whatever method works best for you. Okay, now on to the technique. Simply put, you can determine the priority of a change by looking at where it falls in a consciousness progression map. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or spiral dynamics. Since growth is cumulative, it will be much more difficult, if not impossible, to make a change in a further stage if the previous stages haven't been sufficiently handled yet. Conversely, whatever work is done in earlier stages will provide tools that will make it easier to make changes in later stages. So, if you have a list of changes, whichever one falls earliest in consciousness progression is logically the first priority change to make. For example, in the relationships developmental line, there's purple stage codependence, which incidentally is a very important stage in development and is not unhealthy when a person is actually centered in purple stage. There's red stage recognition of individuality, the burgeoning awareness of having one's own separate wants and needs. Then there's blue stage rules and roles, including boundaries. In order to be able to set and maintain healthy boundaries, you need the basic awareness of your own individual wants and needs that you gain in red stage. You can't skip from purple stage directly to blue stage, since if you don't know what your own separate wants and needs are, how can you set boundaries around them? Then comes the orange stage ability to negotiate for equality and fairness. And then you get to green stage explorations of intimacy as equal, consenting, self-aware adults. So if you're wanting to attain green stage levels of intimacy in your relationships, but your relationship's developmental line is currently in purple stage and you don't yet have an awareness of your own separate wants and needs, the first change you'll probably need to make is to go through red stage and find out what you need and want in relationships. A similar approach can also work when the changes you want to make are in multiple areas of life. For this one, I'll use Maslow's hierarchy of needs to demonstrate. These are some changes I'm wanting to make in my life right now. I'm actually using inner guidance to determine what to work on when, but for the sake of demonstration, I'll show how I might use Maslow's hierarchy to assign priority levels to these. So these ones, that one, are each about basic physical needs, the foundational level of the hierarchy. So they each get a 0. This one is about stability. So it belongs in the safety, feelings of security and stability level of Maslow's hierarchy, so it gets a 1. This one is social, so it falls in the love and belonging level of Maslow's hierarchy, so it gets a 2. These ones, for me, are more about feelings of self-esteem. They make my ego happy, so they're probably a 3. Then these ones, for me, are more about self-actualization, so they get a 4. And then these come from a motivation that's bigger than me, so they get a 5. This works the same way for changes at a larger scope, too. For example, the Snow Leopard Trust wanted to save the snow leopard. The people who were killing snow leopards were doing so to save their flocks and to sell the skins, both of which provided income that they needed in order to feed their families. Between feeding their families, a sort of beige-purple stage problem, and animal rights, a green stage problem, feeding their families would always be first priority. The solution that the Snow Leopard Trust came up with was to help these people export their folk crafts to wealthier countries to supplement their income in exchange for an agreement that they would leave the snow leopards alone. This solution was remarkably successful. I'll provide a link below to their website in case you want to learn more. If you're using spiral dynamics as your model for priority levels, you can assign 0 through 5 to the stages of tier 1 if that's where you're working. So beige is 0, purple is 1, red is 2, blue is 3, orange is 4, green is 5. Or you can shift the scale forward like this. So now red is 0, blue is 1, orange is 2, green is 3, yellow is 4, turquoise is 5. Or you can spread the numbers out a bit. For example, if you have hardly anything to deal with in beige and purple, then maybe they can both fall under 0. And then if you also don't have much to handle in red and blue, then they can both be assigned 1. This way you can cover a larger span of stages. Use whatever distribution works best for your situation. And if you're wanting to make changes both in your individual life and at a larger scale, I've found that it works very well to use the individual perspective as the guide for assigning priorities, since in both cases, you are the one taking the actions, and your actions will always be affected by what state you are in. If you want further explanation about this, see my video on the oxygen mask analogy, link below. In my personal example, 3 of these changes that I want to make are at a scale larger than me. For me as an individual, this one is about love and belonging. So using Maslow's hierarchy, it gets a priority of 2. And these 2 are directed by my inner guidance for a purpose that is much larger than me. So on Maslow's hierarchy, they fall under self-transcendence and get assigned a priority of 5. This same principle applies if you're working as a group, like a team, an organization, a company, a government, etc. And your group is wanting to make changes both at the level of the group and at a larger scale, like a product, a cause, a relationship with another group, a larger organization that contains your group, etc. Since your group is the one taking the actions, the oxygen mask rule still applies, so it works best to use the smaller scale perspective as the guide for assigning priority. So once you've figured out the priority for each change you want to make, then you can simply make changes in this order. See? You just do them in order, from 0 to 5. This can work quite well. For items that are the same number, you can really just roll a die to determine which one to do first. However, if you want to also account for the changes being of varying relative difficulty or eliciting varying degrees of motivation, then you can plug their priority numbers into the formula described in the prioritization formula video, which I will link below. Then, for how to make the changes effectively, see the montage and how to change videos. Actually, this sequence of steps is so useful for actually doing the work of consciousness progression that I think I'll make a new playlist with this video included and maybe a couple of other ones. And then I'll just put a link to the whole playlist in the description. But be forewarned, this kind of work can be very intense and can take a lot of emotional energy. So don't be surprised if you need to spread it out over several days or sleep a lot more, or both. So I hope this video was helpful. Until next time, take care.